Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we learned that three different ways to add CSS to an HTML document and discovered that external CSS is the preferred approach for professional web development. In this lesson, we'll begin styling our web page by learning some of the most commonly used CSS properties for working with the text. By end of this lesson, our web page will already start looking much cleaner and more professional. Before we continue, let's quickly review the structure of CSS rule. Every CSS rule starts with an selector here, and the selector tells the browser which HTML element should receive the styles. Inside the curly braces is the declaration block where we write one or more declarations. Each declaration consists of a property and a value. For example, in this code, h1 is the selector and color is the property and blue is the value. Now, the first property we will use is the font size. Just make it as like this. Okay, here 26 pixels means the text will be 26 pixels tall. Pixels are one of the most commonly used units in CSS, and we'll learn about other units later in this course. As you notice that the heading becomes smaller and larger depending upon the value you choose. For the time being, I'm just removing the color. Now, let's change the font. The font family property determines which typeface is used. For now, we are using the generic sans serif. Sans serif fonts have a clean modern appearance without decorative edges. So later in this course, we learn how to use custom fonts like Google Fonts. Sometimes we want text to automatically appear in uppercase. That's where the text transform property comes in. So let's just transform this. Once I save this, now every letter is displayed in uppercase without changing the original HTML text. This is very useful for headings and labels. Now we will just style the font. This properly allows us to make the text italic. Once applied, the heading appears in italic form. Now let's just style remaining headings. For the H2 heading, we'll increase the size and use some modern font. Font size, let's just say 40 pixel. Notice that H2 is now larger than H1. Remember, heading levels are about HTML semantics, not necessarily about visual sizes. We can style them however we like. And also giving the font family. This is also same. Sans serif. As you can see, the text also changes. Now, let's style all paragraph elements. Let's give the font size of 22 pixels. And give the font family same. Since we are selecting the P element, every paragraph on the page automatically receives these styles. Immediately the text becomes much cleaner and easy to read. Reading long paragraphs becomes easier when there is enough space between the lines. As you can see, there is only little space. So we are giving the new one line height, that is 1.5. When I refresh this, here the 1.5 means each line is 1.5 times the font size. Unlike the font size, this value does not need any unit. The browser calculates the spacing automatically. You will immediately notice that the paragraphs becomes much more readable. At this point, you may notice something interesting. Inside our paragraphs, we also have bold text, italic text, and hyperlinks. Even though we never directly styled these elements, they still receive the same font family and font size. Why? Because it is the importance of CSS concepts called inheritance. Many text-related properties automatically pass from parent element to their children. We'll explore inheritance in much great detail later in this course. And let's also style the remaining headings H3 and H4. Giving the font size of 30 pixels, font family sans serif. As you can see, the H3 element also changes, and now for H4, size will be 20 pixels. And font family will be same. As I'm transforming the text to uppercase. Now all of our headings have a consistent appearance. Our final text property is text align. This controls how text is positioned horizontally. Text align center. So as you can see, the text is centered. So finally, let's style our list items. Instead of styling the entire unordered list or ordered list, we style each list item individually. I'm giving 20 pixels. As the paragraph we have given 22, so we are making a little less than that, and then giving the font family same. This makes every list item larger and consistent with the rest of our typography. So these are the properties. These properties are among the most frequently used in CSS, and you will continue using them throughout this course. Our web page already looks much more polished than before. We will transform the plain HTML into something far more readable simply by applying a few CSS text properties. In the next lesson, we will continue improving our styling while learning more about CSS selectors and how they help us target elements more efficiently.